stop bringing it down.
So this is the final class, 13. We're going to go over mainly over the final assignment, and we're going to have a class about conversation about how to make the class better. I may pause it because it won't be helpful to you. And then I'll get it going again for our when we talk about leading at the judicatory level. So I will get our PowerPoint started here. And so you should be seeing that up there. I don't know what you're seeing on Zoom. I might need to. Right. I am going to have to turn it off. I'll have to put it on mirroring, I believe. Do what? It's like I've never seen so much excitement about mirroring on the computer.
Sound like really excited about that.
Now, all right, I don't know what y'all are seeing on this Zoom. Let me see if I can share this with Rachel. I'm going to pause the recording and then resume recording. Y'all who are watching this do not know what is all just taking place because it took us a long time to figure this out, but we think we're in business. What are we seeing? Did it go back to a mess? It was working. Oops, it was working. And then I turned it off because of the delay. All right, we're in business. I think we're recording. Does it tell you that we're recording?
Yes, this means
All right. It tells us we're recording. Great. All right. Back to this. All right, we're going to talk about the judicatory levels and so forth. Don't worry about the reading assignments, but do watch the videos. Remember your everything's due on the 8th. So we're going to spend time on this. First of all, this is 40% of your grade. So this is a major assignment, but we've been working on it every step of the way. We're working on it each week. So, first of all, follow the instructions. Read the instructions. Think about this again. This guide as a complex piece of furniture that you wouldn't even dream about putting together without following instructions. Your grade is going to be greatly influenced on how much you demonstrate mastery of the course materials. Share with me, what are course materials?
All the readings.
readings, lectures, the participation, the videos, all course content. This is your chance to say, I've attended the class, I've paid attention to the class, I took notes in the class, I comprehended it, and I can apply, I can show you that I know the stuff. This class has no quizzes. It has no reading reflection papers. It has no tests. This is where you show your stuff. Is there clarity? All right. How you show that is by doing copious citations, like from all over, from all the readings, from all the lectures. Like you're going to be working in the material in ways that things compare, and contrast, and make sure you are citing it. There was a lot of in the papers, a lot of information that I know is addressed in the coursework, but there's no citation, which either one says, this is your idea, but I'm not going to give credit. It's somebody else's idea and I'm not going to give them credit for it. But I would say, even if you knew these things before the course, if they're covered in the coursework, give citation to that, because then you're demonstrating, hey, I may have known this about Wesley, but I did get this out of reading it. And you weren't born knowing this about Wesley. Like you picked it up somewhere. So make sure you're giving credit where credit is due. Again, MLA format, which has the last name and page number at the end. Make sure if you're citing somebody else from another course, that you put that material in your works cited. Be sure and edit your part 1 and take into consideration all the suggestions that were given. Okay. In part 2, it's going to be 14 to 17 pages. The first 2 to 3 pages, you're going to just talk about contextual evangelism. This is before you really get into your experiment. You're going to start off, evangelism is always contextual. Address, again, the readings and the lectures. And we had a lot of readings about contextual evangelism. And I spent a lot of time talking about culture, reading, and how evangelism is contextual. So this is, that's, a fifth of the paper is about you demonstrating you get contextual evangelism, and all the materials and stuff that we had about contextual evangelism that you got, you understand. Make sure you're showing that you read and understood Chan, the assigned chapters, that you read and understood Edwards and what he was talking about evangelism, and Rogman also, and the lectures. Then you're going to do 1 page on the experiment. Y'all can write 32 pages on your experiments. I know. I heard 30 minutes about your experiments from each of you. Boil that down into 1 page. Just boom, boom, boom. This is what we're going to do. Just what are you going to do? Tell about, give it a title, what you're going to do, and then 2 or 3 paragraphs explaining exactly how you're going to do it. It's just 1 page, nuts and bolts. Here's what we're doing. Again, I know all of you could write 30 pages on what you're going to do, but just put it in 1 page. Then a page or to a page and a half of your vision, mission, and values. You guys have good vision values. Your vision, just do a paragraph on the vision, paragraph on the mission, then probably a couple of paragraphs on the values, because you have multiple values. And so you can kind of line those in. But again, a page to a page and a half. Questions so far? All right. Then a page and page and a half of the theology of your evangelism experiment. Like, if you were preaching a sermon about it, like what activity of God do you see? What doctrines are being lifted up in your experiment? again, lifting up a doctrine, make sure you're referencing, every chance you get to show that you know where stuff is in the readings and then lectures and demonstrate you got that, do that, scripture. And these things says 1 and 2 paragraphs. Those would be very short paragraphs. This is usually probably just one paragraph of how you do that. And then, this is what I anticipate God doing in this experiment. So, again, provide citations to lectures and readings. On your one page on what you're going to do, if you can throw in some citations in there, do. But for these, you definitely need to. So the ministry context. Now, this is whereas the first one really talks um, on on contextual evangelism in general. This is after your experiment. Now you're going to talk about this section is really about your ministry. So, you will be talking about something you don't know much about, Rachel. And I mean, you might need to call Ricky or something like that, or you may just talk in general about having experience of being in college campus for how many years, and not counting how much experience you have from your father, or exposure to your father's time on college campus. Your dad is at a college campus, right?
Well, yes, but
And so, well, I mean, my dad's a lawyer, so I get exposed to law stuff more than most other kids in their upbringing. And so I figure, you get it.
leave it outside.
Oh, has he? Okay, I just knew he did teaching some, but I guess you can talk about in general the context of what it is for student life, but that's what you're talking about, your church life or the student. Well, no, this part's really like your church unique, so it'd really be more McMurray, student affairs, student ministries, chaplain's office aspect that you would be doing it, because the mission field, is a page and a half. Again, on the ministry context, remember the church unique lecture and how you do understand that. And then the next one is the mission field. Again, evangelism is always contextual. And then you'll start sharing how, what you understand in your mission field, the uniqueness of your mission field, and why you think your experiment is ideal for them. Like you'll bring that in at the end. And so, talking about, our mission field around Ridgewood Park. We have, these families with these age. I was exposed to them through here. This cooking ministry is ideal for them because it is setting aside time for them to interact with one another and disciple, which those opportunities are few, and parents would appreciate this, or whatever your analysis is on what makes you think, knowing what and analyze them, and then here's why I think, from my analysis of this mission field, why I think this experiment will work, which we don't ever really know if it will work or not. But, you want to say, I don't want to just throw spaghetti at a wall. I want to, how can I, learn about it. So it has the best possibilities of bearing fruit. Understand the difference in the two and the first part. First part is ministry is contextual evangelism in general. Then getting to this ministry, the one page, this is about my church, and the other is about the mission field. And again, bring in like talk about Roegman. Your environment, y'all are probably going to be reaching out mainly to Christians. Cultural Christians are people who are probably not that far removed from being Christians, meaning, there's a good chance that whoever you're reaching out to, even if they don't have a church, their grandmother probably did, so they're not that far removed. Whereas Roegman was talking about, no, these people if they ever have a church had a church, it was thousands of years ago. They have been separated from Christianity for thousands of years, or so you can kind of compare but make sure you find where Rogan's talking about something and be able to relate, like in a conversation or with Chan or with uh, Edwards or Pope Levison. Questions, comments? Nope. All right. Then a page and a half to 2 on your model. Again, here is where you're going to explain more about your evangelism experiment, but doing it under the similarities as Pope Levison's. And so, I guess real quick, y'all can popcorn. What would you say, which model do you think your experiment is closest to out of the experiments that Pope Levison lifts up? All right, I see y'all have work to do. I mean, do you know?
I think that's-
Yours is a small group model. Yours is small group model evangelism. I mean, that's what it is. I would say yours is probably small group model evangelism. So you are looking at small group model evangelism. So you get into small group model evangelism. Make sure you're like, this is what small group evangelism, this and this is how it's being applied, and this is how this evangelism experiment is going to implement. Go back through that chapter of Pope Levison, do that, and say within that, this is going to create opportunities for. It sounds like it's storming, but it doesn't look like it's storming. Oh, it is? I guess just the angle I have. Okay. Oh yeah, now I can see it a little bit. Yeah, it was supposed to be bad yesterday. We got nothing. Apparently Mineral Wells got something. Anyway, and then what other models? So I would venture to guess there's going to be some personal evangelism taking place within there. And so talk about how within this experiment, how personal evangelism, go through her personal evangelism. Brooke, we talked about you going back and doing some personal invitations. So you can say the visitation, evangelism and the door, how that's going to fit. So address her, go into these chapters, say this is what she did, this or this is how we're going to do this. And then you could just say, a good way to do this would be like, we will be implementing visitation evangelism. We will start off with prayer. And then or Pope Levison page, don't say Pope Levison says you should do this. Just say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off with prayer. And after prayer, we're going to, do this preparation. Pope Levison, da, 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 da. And then we'll be looking for developing small groups. In these small groups, we'll be creating an environment of which evangelism can take place. And da, da, da. Pope Levison, da, 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 page number. So you're not saying Pope Levison says. You just say this is what we're doing. This is the model we're doing it, and these ideas of what we're going to do can be found in Pope Levison here. So then the reader's whoever's reading this, your senior pastor, if you're going to get a grant, you should apply for a grant from Stacy PQ for this.
So, I was thinking of that as I was watching the video, when she was referencing the grant writing.
Yeah. Throw that out there, say, hey, give us some money.
Mhm.
I don't know what they're doing now, but I mean, this would definitely be something that can apply, and you could send this paper, and then you're sharing when I'm talking about this model of what we're about to do, I'm not inventing the wheel here. This is established thing. This is, you know, this has been being done for thousands
How we do this
of
thing
years,
and what we will do.
and here's how we're doing it, contextually.
Mhm.
Because as I said from the very end, evangelism, much of it has not changed since the book of Acts. Still got to meet people. People still have to gather at some point. Obviously, how we meet people is different. How we gather is different. But these same acts are not different. And these models, and it just gets contextualized. Then bring in other lectures and readings. I mean, there's just, you got 1.5 to 2 pages on this model where you can really bring in some of your readings and apply them to what you're doing so that you're, demonstrating to me competency, but then to any reader as well to say, hey, yes, you're Stacy P. Keene, you're going to be giving us some money. You're taking a risk on this, but I'm not coming at this willy-nilly. I've done my homework. I have receipts for all this. Again, do citations, avoid quotations, and do it in MLA. Questions on the model? All right. You got a lot on the digital mission field. 2 pages, 2.5, so it's an abnormally large amount. That's because you would have already demonstrated models of evangelism. The other sections, you have already demonstrated a level of mastery in part 1. But we skip digital evangelism to be in part 2. So make sure you engage the readings, Pope Levison lectures, and videos when we're talking about how to do technology. And if you did other videos or anything, but make sure that you're citing what you got out of the videos, or if you have disagreements, you can say, unlike Chris Abbott, our you say, well, like with Chris Abbott's all about plan your visit. How do people plan your visit? How people feel welcome? You directly connect that to registration and how he tries to get people to register to come visit Sunday morning worship. You can utilize his stuff about doing digital to get people to register for your that. I think if you did a Facebook, I mean, if you're utilizing this, and I think you should at least in the paper utilize it, do a promoted Facebook ad. You can tie in a tight radius around you. And it depends how wide you want to reach. If you're like, we're going on Hills, we're going to be a neighborhood church, we want to go all in our neighborhood. Well, don't advertise too much outside your neighborhood, because if it goes too wide, then people Highland Park, I don't know, but that may not be your target mission. So I get clear. And so he talks a lot about that. Utilize that. Cite his videos. Questions about digital mission field? All right, discipleship. You're going to do 1 to 1.5 pages. Again, it's shorter, but explain the discipleship pathway. In every application, when I was in the conference office getting grants, the discipleship pathway was generally the weakest. And in our presentations the other day, it was like, we got to strengthen this discipleship pathway. Say this is successful. What are you going to do then? So set that up. And so what does that look like in all of your settings? So let's say this food thing, they find it tasty. What comes after that? You know, do you explore a monthly meal? Do you design something for them? Or is there a pathway into what you're already doing with discipleship? You know, the same thing with the campus ministry. You know, I would say at the minimum, Brooke, schedule a meeting after camp and say, uh, you know, what was this like? How's it like? You know, we would really enjoyed working with your kids. We'd like to do this more, but what might this look like? And we can't I say we can't do this without parental volunteers. So if you're committed to this, you know, you can come and join and help. Or you know, whatever it might look like, you know, just kind of find something, or at the minimum, say our discipleship pathway is it can't be designed for that because whatever reason, because you maybe work someplace else or something like that, to say, how can I help the church get intentional in discipling these families? So either, you know, some of the programs you have already and finding a way that those persons are connected, like if there's a children's Sunday school class or something like that, making sure they're connected with these families, extending invitations and so forth, but being very intentional about the bridge work, that so that this isn't I plant on rocky soil and then walk away. It's how do we? All right. Then timeline, goals, and evaluation, a page or page and a half. Just here's what we're going to do. Here's where we're going to do it. Here's our goals. Here's where we're going to evaluate. And I eliminate goals. I should take goals out of this. And I eliminated goals in all my work in the conference office. Instead of goals, replace the word goals with hypothesis. Tell me what's the difference?
Well, goal is something that you're attaining to, and hypothesis is saying we're trying this out and to see what is this gonna look like? What's gonna happen? It's like open-ended a little bit in the hypothesis. Maybe.
Not really, because a hypothesis is pretty concrete.
Concrete in the statement, but
You are going to say, if we do this, we're going to, let me see, how many people do you think for your camp is an ideal number?
25.
25. So in my hypothesis, that we will reach and have direct contact. I hypothesize with the 100 households. We're going to do that through our direct Facebook targeting ads, with our going door to door, with our price. We're going to touch base with 100 households, of which we will have 15 households and 25 children. Of which, out of these 25 children that we have, how many kids are in the church right now?
Well, I mean, I would say in our elementary age group, it's probably maybe 17 to 22.
In this, of this, we're gonna have 10 that are from Greenland Hills, and 15 that are new. Again, this is what we're hypothesizing.
Sure.
This is our hypothesis. Of which, out of these 10, we're anticipating 4 having a long-term discipleship. So if this is a goal, if you get 24, there's a sense of we didn't reach our goal.
Yeah.
We just had one more, we'd have reached our goal. If it's a hypothesis and say we hypothesized 25 and we got 24, we were pretty accurate with our hypothesis. If you get 26, you're just as far away as if you'd gone 24. Your hypothesis is still as accurate at 26 as it is at 24. But if you get 15 or 35, then you're like, what was off? On both. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Why did I think we would only get 25? But we actually got, 45. If it was a goal, it was like, not only did we make our goal, we exceeded our goal. If it's a hypothesis and says, why did I think? What was I thinking wrong? What did I get? What did I get wrong? Okay, if I do this next time, what do I need to be more aware of? And then all of a sudden, when you're thinking like that, you're like, I never dreamed the paid for promoted Facebook ad would get the response that it did. Or I never dreamed that, oh, if I tapped into this school, that this teacher would reach all that. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I'm learning so much. So next time I do this, I'm gonna do this and this. You see where you can put your energy and effort. So this hypothesis, you learn a lot. If you're way under, it's just like, all right, what did I not account for? What were the variables that I didn't get? And then you start analyzing, just like, oh, you know what? Next year we should not do it the same week as the summer rise camp of the elementary school in the neighborhood. Never considered that, but now they're so forth. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So take out goals and say, here's my timelines, here's my hypothesis, and this is what I'll be utilizing to evaluate it. Like what's your hypothesis? How many people are you hypothesizing you'll touch, you'll reach? How many will come to the cooking? How many of those will be from the church? How many of those will be from outside the church? And how many of those will you develop a long-term discipleship relationship with? And then at the end of it, on the other side, you'll be like, we only had this, but then again, we just started off here. So if we start off with 40, okay, that may explain why we only had 15 and not 25 or so forth. Are you following?
Yes.
Setting up that learning culture, and gets away from you will deal in every established church. We've tried this before. And be like, okay, what'd you learn from it? Oh, we learned this. I was like, well, did you? Like, I tried to get them to launch a student worship band. They're like, oh, we tried that. It didn't work. I was like, well, how'd you try it? Well, what'd you do? And so forth. They tried again, and we had how many on stage on Sunday? One. They played one song on Sunday. It was not very good, but everyone loved it. Like it was. I got so much positive feedback about it, and then it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably a dozen kids holding instruments or singing on stage, and it was very cool. All right, and then one paragraph conclusion, and there's more information about conclusion and so forth. So, at the end, 14, 17 pages. Erase all the red that it's done, the whole thing when it's done, at least the written part. Not counting the works cited page, should be 28 pages minimum, no more than 34. Again, this sounds like a lot. It is a lot, but there's no tests. There's no extra papers. This is it. And you've had lots of opportunities to talk about it here. You've had an opportunity to turn in your first part, get feedback on that, apply that, know exactly what I'm looking for, reviewing it again here. Again, be sure and edit and rewrite your part one. And when ready to turn it in, leave all the black titles and subtitles, erase all the red. What questions do you have?
I have a clarification question.
Yes.
I just want to clarify the stop time that it's due, because in one area it says 5 p.m. and somewhere else it said midnight. And so I just wanna, is it a before 5 p.m.?
I thought it has to be before 5 p.m. per SMU stuff. It may be in,
Stuff is due on Saturday and my analytical technique stuff is due on May 12th, so.
Yeah, it's due control, right?
Huh? Analytical technique, or,
No, sorry,
Oh.
apology.
no, she's got a problem too. She's got one place where it says May 12th and somewhere else it says May 9th at 5 p.m. So we gotta clarify that.
Oh,
okay. So it may be open on Canvas until past then.
Yeah, I think I'll-
It may be open on Canvas till past then, but
but you would-
4 or 5 p.m. I just for me to be compliant. Yep. And you have time, and we've not had heavy reading in the past 2 weeks. Good question. Other questions?
And I'll leave all black titles and subtitles.
Yeah. Again, just reread the instructions, plug them in, paragraph, plug and play. Others?
If we hit, like, in these, like, so this is April 29th, and this is due May 8th, if we hit like a specific question in these next like 5 days in the trajectory of this, how do we best reach out to you for clarification on something?
I am most attentive to text. Yeah. You can reach out to me anyways. You can reach out email. The Gmail I check more than my SMU account. Or you can send an email and say, I just emailed you, please check it in a text also. Others? All right. Hearing none. Before we get into leading church multiplication, I want to take a moment so we don't run out of time on, y'all did a paper on how to improve this class. Thought sharing that here could spur some conversations and thoughts. So I don't know if you need your paper back or actually you probably have a good idea how this class can be better in the future. Should I be invited to teach it again? Here's your opportunity to do to me what I've been doing to y'all all semester long.
Yeah. What was ours? I just mentioned in my paper, I feel like leading up to the evangelization experiment, like talking about it or getting the idea, getting down to it, it kind of just was very sudden. Like they're at the halfway point, getting into part 2, finishing part 1. It's like, okay, now have your like your idea for your experiment. Thought maybe slowly fleshing out from the start. I know like we didn't have any idea from the start, but like providing more examples of previous projects that have happened before than we have had. And then also I liked.
Can we pause right there?
For sure.
So like, maybe in the first lecture or the second lecture, say, like by the end of this course, you will be designing your own evangelism experiment. And then instead, I'm going to show you a number of examples of some, and then some of those like I have in some of the other lectures further on that says, okay, here's what they did in Powerly. Here's what they did here. Here's what they did there. Here's what they did there. And as we go, you're going to be designing this. And so be thinking about, who is it you're wanting to reach and so forth and something like that. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah, because I think in part 1, it was like more so the bare building blocks, but I didn't know what I was trying to build up to
Ah,
a lot of the time.
okay,
And we got to the halfway point, it's like, have your experiment, okay, I have something.
yeah,
I'm not sure if it was in line, and then eventually it came through
yeah,
our collaboration.
but getting started on it earlier, yeah,
Just as far as like,
and exposure,
what do I need to do?
yeah, all right. Thanks for that. That's helpful. All right, you had another thing.
And then I really like collaboration with the class. I know we talked like a lot on our feedback for our mission, values, and things, but also for the specific project, for presentations even. I think presentations were very on the spot and very helpful, but also I think in a less on the spot type of what are the positives and negatives of this idea that I have, or like brainstorm a little bit together and like a circle, like that sounds like a great idea. Here's like a slight way your classmates could chime in on what that idea could be.
Okay,
So like a small little brainstorming for the experiment.
some more of that, because we do have that,
Mhm.
and we did have that.
Yeah.
When you first pitched it,
Right,
but then having another one before the actual presentation.
something like a little more solid, more than a pitch.
Okay, all right. Good. What else?
That's, this is more a personal thing. I don't do well with freedom or not a lot of for the semester as far as the structure goes. That's a me thing. And just
So,
like a weekly, make sure I get the thing done.
yeah. Yeah. So,
And I know a lot of people don't want that extra work. And
yeah, well, at first I had the final project in 3 parts, which gave a little bit more, something was due here, something was due here, and then something was due here instead of, nope, just here and there. So, yeah, and so I tried to break it up in those 1 weeks, but there's zero accountability.
yeah, that's what I said.
If you do it that week, you did. If you don't, I'm not looking at it.
And that's like a me, like a student, individual thing.
You're definitely not alone in any of that, I can assure you. All right, that's helpful. Got anything else?
No,
Hmm.
I just said it was like weekly accountability would be beneficial for some.
I will think about that. All right. Others?
Collaborative brainstorming idea. One thing that I wrote about a little bit was just that as human beings in this class, there were 5 of us, and we have some more perhaps introverted personalities within our class. And so sometimes, when we would come in to discuss things, I could tell that it was sometimes overwhelming to like some of our questions, just to get the conversations started.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So, I wondered if kind of on that idea of brainstorming or collaboration, even in a group of 5, if perhaps before we launched into the overall class discussion, there was a break off into 2 groups. Hey, let's talk about the meeting a little bit. What did you think about this? It's kind of like a soft launch to then throwing out our ideas to the professor, and just aids a little bit maybe in the overall comfortability. There were times that in the class I felt like if I didn't say something, it might be really, really quiet for a long time. And then there were also times I was actually intentionally trying to be quiet to allow and inspire other individuals to speak, but I don't know that I ever hit the sweet spot of all that. So that was one thing that I wrote a little bit about.
Oh,
And then I will also add, everyone in this room knows it's been just a very intense semester of my life, both in so many realms. And so for me, because I had 14 hours this semester and because of all the other loads I'm carrying, I really need dates. on like within like how we had like the unit 12 and unit 11, but like, and we had some things listed within the simple syllabus, but like if we could utilize the modules to be like, this is module 1 for, April 15th, these things have to be completed by, and then this is what that looks like for that week. That just helps me when I have so many hours and so much schedule to
Right.
see it. Because I was going back to simple syllabus and then I was tracking that and trying to figure out which unit we were on, but the units didn't have dates with them. And
Okay.
so that was something that I struggled with.
Yeah.
With the load that I'm carrying.
Okay.
So it was, and it was also really helpful, like each week, you would say, do this for the next class. And so I always was going back to my notes to be like, what did that one sentence
Yeah.
say? That told me that.
Yeah.
Right.
And all that was just on the syllabus.
Right.
What
yeah.
was up there,
Yeah.
it was just, I'd copy and put the syllabus on
Yeah.
on
And-
that, but yeah, I can see where that would be helpful.
Class, not looking at anyone, but like sometimes I'll get text message like, what unit are we on this week? Or like, do we have this to do tomorrow or something like that?
Yeah,
And just, it seemed as a whole of all 5 of us, that was a struggle.
that was a struggle,
for
yeah.
us.
And the I-State got us off.
Yeah, well, yeah. I
That
mean,
got
it
us
was-
off a week.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't get us off a week. It got us off really 2 weeks because it fell the week before spring break, right? And because it was that week before spring break. Yeah, anyway,
Yeah, those were just some thoughts.
Yeah.
that
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Good. Mhm. What else would be helpful for class?
I would just like to second everything that was being said as well. One thing I did put about, in the evaluation was that it would have been like helpful to have, something of somewhere for us to collaborate to the class of like putting like websites or something like that to help each other's, evangelism experiment. And I did like appreciate, we had like the feedback and it was verbal, but having something like written down or like discussion posts or something like that.
Ah,
I put.
would you make that like required, or would you just make that,
It wouldn't have to be
available?
required. It wouldn't be, it's just something to add on to.
or say, or make it part of, hey, on your evangelism pitch, do this, post it. And when you get through, you're doing it anyway for class, it's verbal, post it here. And if you want to go back and read each other's posts, you can. If you want to comment on it, you can, but not necessarily for a grade. Is that what you're saying? Like, is something like that?
Another thing too that I noticed, so like when we got to like the mission and vision and values, it was really helpful that we looked at, like different companies. I did appreciate that. I would have appreciated a little bit more if we looked at like different churches.
Okay.
Or, like not just like churches as well, like different ministry contexts.
Okay. Yeah.
And class discussion and lecture. But also I don't think we really talked, when we got to the video portion of like the semester, we didn't really talk much about the videos. I feel like that would have been helpful.
Like the unit 11, when I was going to bring in 3. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then we, models where we talked about, the readings, but like talking about the videos.
Would have been helpful.
Oh, yes, and then kind of seconding to what Matt was saying, having examples from past like semesters of where they've done like evangelism.
Okay. Yeah, I could do.
Like, to see like, okay, this is what they planned, this is what they did, this is what worked and this is what didn't.
Yeah.
That would have been helpful to see like, okay, they tried this didn't work. You may not have done this about like their.
I usually don't.
It was
So some of them, some of the evangelism experiments that were in class, I was fortunate enough to be mindful that they did implement it. Others, I don't know if they ever implemented it or not. But, yeah. Yeah.
Just to see like, people that come in past semesters have done this and what worked.
Yeah.
Really helpful to see like, okay, this is what I need to reevaluate for myself because that didn't work for them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hard? Like, what was the hard piece of that? Or like, maybe this,
Challenging.
or how did this evolve? Like, you started here and you thought it was gonna go here, but you actually had to
Maybe just
change how you were thinking that through.
Yeah.
In that process and look at that through a different lens.
Yeah.
I only say that because maybe I'm experiencing that myself.
No, like that is what.
We all do.
It's challenging. It's challenging. But
It
like, lots
is.
Of real examples from.
Yeah.
Some positive things I really want to elevate are how much I did appreciate the videos and how much I have appreciated the readings and the varied perspectives. That I appreciated the thoroughness and the thoughtfulness and the depth and breadth of that.
Okay, good.
That's been extremely helpful and it's definitely inspired my own thinking and made me also reevaluate some things and have maybe my own perceptions. And so it was both insightful and challenging, and I appreciated that.
Thanks, Mom. All right. Anything else I should know about the class that can benefit future students?
These would have been helpful.
The dates, like she was saying?
Trying to get, but I was.
Yeah. You were the only one texting.
Okay.
You were the only one that I was doing with that. There are a lot of texts flying around. Yeah.
The past, couple of weeks, I'm just like, okay, where are we? Exactly.
we're all trying to, like,
It's-
figure
it's
it out.
Balancing, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Season.
But wouldn't you have that in your notes?
So I always had so what I prepared, I don't know how you guys approach your notes, but I start a running notes that starts at the beginning of class and then I date each class section so that I can go to evangelism. I have this very long document in each date. So that helps me. And then always just the last sentence you would say before we have to do this for next week. And then I was always taking that and then comparing that to simple syllabus and the units and tracking that.
Yeah. But I mean, every week was one unit and like, we're talking about Wesleyan. So, well, that's this unit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I would think, anyway. But yes, it would have been, well, even if I'd had in the syllabus, even if I had the dates, when we had our ice day, all the dates would have been out the window. Yep. But I hear you. And I put the unit dates in my personal calendar when they are, and then I had to go back and do that over again. I thought about putting it in the syllabus, but then there's also like, I learned the hard way because, I use the same syllabus for the class. I just tweak the syllabus every time based on the feedback I get and so forth. And the more dates I put in there, the more chances to have a wrong date. And so I was like, all right. Anyway, but I appreciate the feedback and how that could make it harder on the students. So.
I feel like it's really hard when you're also in like anthropology, like all these, like you've got all these very intense things running around and. Yeah. Which we are all in together, so.
Others. All right. So, the rest of this lecture is for when y'all become bishops in the church. But it is 1:53. Let's take you want to take a break now or do you want to truck on and take a little bit break later? All right, let's take a break. We'll start again at about 5 after. How do I pause this? All right. So, I've shown this slide in here before. Are you seeing, what are you seeing on your screen?
Just
Oh, it's just me. Ah. All right. Hopefully we won't go through this again. Hopefully a simple share screen will Oh, yes, please. All right, what are you saying? Rachel?
Just sharing.
All right. Now, are you seeing this? Okay. Um, it's not there. It is. All right, good. All right. We have focused on this about um the the culture of our churches. Um, for most do not have an evangelistic culture to where if the if the pastor is the one driving the evangelism, it becomes pastor centric. It becomes short lived. It becomes uh, um, message and messenger can get conflated, and so these experiments are all about really seeking to create a new culture within the church, because we've had, with this being our life cycle, what these experiments really are designed to do is, if you just get this muscle of what are our experiments, and that you create this with all your ministries, your staff, your ministry leaders, creating a culture of evangelism within within these ministries, to where this concept of we've always done this doesn't become an excuse for we can't try something new. I'm not saying you have to try something different. You can keep doing this what we've always done, but can we try something new? Can often be much more palatable than trying something different. Are you following me? So in trying something new, if you're doing these new things, they can find their way to where, eventually the new just kind of takes over the old, to where that what we've always done, if it's not been working, it can just it can go by the wayside if it's not needed any longer. Is this making sense? So how do we create that? And so that's what we're seeking to do here. I shared about Rudy Rasmus saying his number one job is to be the culture police, and that he has the 3 braids. He says to keep the religious folk away from his church. We are going to be starting, whatever ministry you're going into, you're going to be starting off with your duties. That we all have duties that we have to do. I have to teach this Bible study that I teach every Wednesday morning. I have to preach on Sundays. I have to lead staff. I have to do certain things with finance. I'm learning have to do something with annual conference, etc. We have these duties we have to follow. But then it's like, okay, what early wins can we get? And I'm wanting our church to make a donation to Christ Foundry. Well, they just announced the new pastor of Christ Foundry, and so I'm gonna hold off on doing this until the new pastor gets there, so the new pastor can get credit. So they can have these early wins. And so what you want to do with your evangelism team, with your people that you're there, what are some small, low bar wins that you can have that can build momentum? So if you're going to, create change, create culture, creating momentum, and momentum gets created from multiple wins, multiple changes. That doesn't mean you have to be fear of failure, but the soul can only handle so much failure. I like to tell the story. I used to go behind my dad's lawnmower and catch crickets and put them in a jar, poke holes in the jar, and then we go down the creek to fish for perch in the creek with these crickets as a little boy. And so you put the crickets in there, they jump and they hit the top. They jump, they hit the top, but eventually they quit jumping. You can take the top off, grab a cricket, put the top back on. Your people are going to jump for so long, and if they keep hitting the top, they won't want to jump anymore. So you got to find ways where they're like, oh, we need to keep jumping. We can keep jumping. Let's find something. That way, when they do jump and hit the top, they don't stop jumping. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They have to believe that they can't get out of the top. And so that's what how do you get some easy wins in there? And then again, starting the new initiatives and again, like we were doing this model, these new initiatives, eventually creating a new culture of other oriented. Again, to move up it takes trust and building that trust. Thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think it just makes a lot of sense.
This is what you'll be doing for the rest of your ministry career. You stay in ministry, in itinerant ministry. And even not in itinerant ministry, because you'll move into new positions and different things. So, other thoughts? All right. Yeah. Anyway. Diffusions of innovations. Have we talked about this much? I don't think we have. At all. All right. Brooke, how old were you when you got your first cell phone?
It's late to the game, yeah, but I grew up very impoverished, and so like things, yeah.
I was in my late 20s. Mid-20s. And so in this, you're in that red 34, the late majority. I was in the late majority. I mean, with the cell phones though, we're now way over there in the blue. Everybody has cell phones. Everybody. You see people homeless on the street. They got a cell phone. I mean, it's gotten that. I mean, there's nothing novel about having a cell phone. There was a point where cell phones were out, but very few people had them. And there was very few people who really wanted them. They were accessible, they were readily available, but like me, I just came back from living in the Peace Corps where I didn't even have a phone, much less a cell phone, and I didn't need a cell phone. And my cousin married the Metro PCS, daughter of the founder of Metro PCS, and he was like, "Oh, you need to get a phone. You need to just put all that and buy that." I'm like, I just thought that was the silliest thing. But of course, a few years later, I had the cell phone. Everybody has a cell phone now. This diffusion of innovations, and it goes all, but it really speaks to me because it goes back to clean water wells in Bolivia, and how how do they start digging wells differently in Bolivia? When I got to Ecuador, I was doing swine production and I wasn't getting anywhere. It got really bad to the point where I went to the head of the organization that asked me to come down there because I was trying to do all these things, trying to get these things going, and he wouldn't support me. He wasn't coming to anything. Nothing was happening. And I went to him and I had a meeting with him. And I said, Plinio, uh, I get the feeling that the only reason you wanted a Peace Corps volunteer to come to your village is that you wanted a gringo to drink beer with. And you know what? I am fine with that. So I was just like, yeah. So I started the Trip of the Month Club. I'm a planter. I can't help but start stuff. It wasn't until later. So I started the Trip of the Month Club among Peace Corps volunteers. Every month we'd be going visit different volunteers all over the country of Ecuador. I traveled everywhere. It was great. But there was this one guy named Pepon. And Pepon came to the lectures. Pepon applied what I was doing. And then one day, Pepon made a bunch of money. My life changed. No more Trip of the Month Club. I was now very busy in my community as a Peace Corps volunteer because everybody wanted to do what Pepon did. Pepon was my early adopter. It was only after, I was innovating. I was the guy, I was trying to get this thing going. I was the innovator. Hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. You can make money off of this with your pigs. And Pepon did. And so Pepon made money. And now everybody's like, hey, I'm interested in that. So then we got early majority and then we expanded. And so the whole area of Las Tecas, Ecuador, and there, it was absolutely transformed how pigs were being raised. Before, pigs were being treated as you just throw out your scraps and they just eat your scraps. And after a while, you'll eat it. Instead of a real intensive commercial operation. I mean, the biggest change was they saw every bite your pig ate, that's money out your pocket unless it's throwaway food. Where I was like, no, anytime your pig is not eating, you're not making money. So you want your pig eating as much as your pig can eat because anytime they're eating, you're making money because you're putting this much in and this is what you're getting out. And then so we absolutely transformed how pigs were being raised, so forth. We got a contract with a big supermarket chain that was paying us 40% more for our pork than we got out there in the country. And then when I went back down there, I mean, they were doing now artificial insemination. They were doing genetic improvement. It was amazing what they done. It's just got transformed. None of that would have happened if I didn't have Pepon. So I tell you, pastors, you're going to have ideas, things you want to get done, and people are going to be like, find your Pepon. Don't worry about the naysayers. Don't say, these people don't want to do this. Find your Pepon. Don't spend all your energy trying to convince people because then you'll have no energy to do what you got to do. Find people who give you energy and work with them. Got it?
Yep.
So this is how we're doing it in a systematic way. And then, but then if he does it, you got to get word out. Now, in that community, as my 17-year-old brother down there says, he goes, man, they know the life of every dog out here. Like they know which dogs eat chickens, which don't, much more on the people. Like, because they didn't have much else to do except gossip out there. And so when Pepon made money, the diffusion happened. You got to figure out within your context, how does this happen? If this music thing takes off, how do you get it out there? How do you leverage that for more? Same thing with your evangelism experiments. How do you get that out there? If these students come here and they have a powerful experience, they're going to share it some way, but how do you get that more? I'm doing a complete structural change at Capel for this very reason, because our communications is just not happening. And we got to figure out how to get that out there, get the word out. So how do we shift our culture and behavior to where, multiplication evangelism it comes part of it. Like at one time, Sunday school was a novelty. now, everybody has Sunday school. Every church. There's nothing novel or new about Sunday school. But there was a time that Sunday school was an innovation. Are you following me?
Yep.
So how do we in our church get this multiplying, reaching new people and new ways as normative, as common as Sunday school?
I hate to be like, I don't know, but I feel like the way that we look at Sunday school and how it has been, I feel like is changing. Because I feel like it's, for what I have noticed and what I've seen in different history contexts, it's very kind of like generational thing has become that. And so Sunday school in the morning, let's reevaluate what is the best way that this can look at, that's more accessible to everyone. Not just in the morning before church, because I mean, some people like, what if there's like, yeah, young couples that do want to attend Sunday school, but they have children? And so there's like all these different external factors to why, it may not be the best model moving forward in certain churches, depending on the context.
I don't know if I've mentioned here, but evangelism's always contextual.
Yes. Well, but I'm thinking about my own context, I'm like, okay, this might work in other, like. churches.
It's always contextual. I mean, whatever we're going to do is going to be contextual. Yeah. But at some point, nobody had Sunday school. No one had it. And you cannot argue with the success that Sunday school has had in Christendom through the years.
Yeah. But seems to-
Now, is it our only tool today? Absolutely not. Absolutely. It can't be. COVID changed a lot. The way people gather changed a lot. I mean, Sunday morning worship can't be your only strategy anymore. It just singing along to a pipe organ or piano can't be your only. It can be for some churches, but it can't be for all of Christianity. I mean, it just can't be. I mean, it can't be. I mean, it might could be for Greenland Hills. I can tell you right now, we've gotten a lot of couples with young babies that have come into the life of our church. I've been talking to them about starting Sunday school class. They're enthusiastic and thrilled about it because there's childcare at the same place. If we try to do something midweek, that's going to be harder for them. Trying to find midweek and a time that they can do it, that's just not going to work. They're already coming on Sundays, some to 9 o'clock, some to 11. They're thrilled about a Sunday school class. Like, okay, don't make me shoehorn you into something and call it. And so, but what are we going to do with them? How are we going to do that? What's it going to look like? Are we going to have a teacher? Are they going to do self-led? All this kind of stuff. I don't know. We got to figure that out. But the point is, there was a time where Sunday school was an innovation, and then there was a few churches that became early adopters, and then there became early majority, and then now even your most, what you would describe as your backwards looking nostalgic church, they have the innovation of Sunday school there. But, is Sunday school going the way of this? Is it over here? Maybe. But I just know, everything we're doing in the church, as always, cannot be the only thing that we do. And think about what Wesley did. That was radically innovative for what was happening in the Church of England at the time. Radically innovative for what was happening. But now if we propose, doing with Wesley, some of it's still radical. You were going to say something.
Maybe opening, but I'm going to lift this question because I would value perspective. So sometimes that negation isn't always in terms of in a new idea or a new discussion, or let's look at this through a different lens. The negation of that isn't always in the congregation. Sometimes that's within your staff context or your leadership context, right?
Yeah.
So in navigating that, like when you are someone in ministry who is a creative or an idea person and an implementation person, right? How to navigate the constant, no, 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 no,
Yeah,
in ways that are of God.
yeah,
And helpful. So,
yeah.
right,
There's not a hard and fast rule, but I'll give you some options. You know, one option is start a trip of the month club. If I can't exercise my creativity here, then I'm gonna exercise it here. So you're, you know, let me use a non-specific example. Let's say you are, you're passionate about children's literacy. You want to get your church real involved in children's literacy, and you get no, no, no. Well, go start volunteering for a children's literacy group. Start a trip of the month club.
Yeah.
Start on that. That's one option.
Mhm.
Not always the best option, but you have something that God has given you that you truly believe God expects you to use. And if you can't use it where you're at, perhaps God can use it someplace else while you're still here, or a change. Does that make sense? Number 2, organize against the man. Get a group of people together that feel like you feel. Don't stir up trouble. Don't that, but say, I found some people who are passionate about literacy, and we want to do something. Can we discuss it with you? Can't feel like it's against the man.
Right.
If the man feels threatened,
Right.
that's not going to be good for anyone. But if it's, I have a group of people here, they have passion, and if one of them can be the spokesperson, you're better off. But doing organizing for that purpose. We, feel called about it. There's other people that want to do it. Organize, gets people to do it with you. The other is Will Willimon. I really love this quote. He says, "As far as I could tell, Jesus wasn't that interested in the Roman authorities, but after 3 years in ministry, Roman authorities sure were interested in Jesus," which I take as if you're passionate about something, start doing it, and if a proponent arises, the naysayer may change their tune because they see the fruit. So if it bears fruit, then I didn't think that's what you were talking about. But that's they'll get on board because they'll see fruit. So there's 3 options. I don't know if that's helpful, but it'll be just contextual. But dealing with naysayers is true. So I would say 1, find your early adopters, somebody who wants to do something, and then do that instead of that change. If they say no, lower the bar some. Say, well, can I do this? What if can I do this on my own time? Can I invite somebody else to do this? Like, kind of lower the bar so you can get permission, and then go bear fruit, then go organize, then so forth. So it's not subversive, because subversion will not serve you well, or the mission well. Yeah. Others? So moving to multiplication as norm. So think about when we talk about it in the conference level, we look at it with on these 4 different levels. We've been talking about on a level 1, about this new spaces, these small groups. How do you make this normative? When we talk about every church planting is going to look differently in every church. There's going to be those churches that can plant an entire new multi-million-dollar campus and seat it with 100-something people. What the churches that don't have even 100-something people to begin with will not be doing that model. But then they, well, we're not big enough to plant. We're Powderly, we're Market Street or whatever we are. But then say, well, how do we do planting? How do we do starting? What are we called to do to disciple people we're not currently discipling? And we've talked about micro churches, fresh expressions, and then Wesleyan class meetings. I mean, all of those of what we've been talking about here. These same principles that we've been talking about are similar principles at all 4 levels that you would do. They just get done at different levels. A new worship service. Planting a new worship service can be instrumental in connecting with people that the current style of worship does not connect with. The Healthy Church Initiative really encouraged people to change their way to worship. How do you think that was received? People tend to be at the worship service they're at because they like it as it is. So spending a lot of energy to try to change those people and change the way they worship, I don't know how you'll have energy for anybody new. Because you spend all your energy on trying to change the old. We talked a lot about this. This takes a lot more energy than this takes energy too, but this is that. So I get there at Coppell. I've been talking about a new worship service already, talking about a new worship service. Are we going to do it in the next 5 years? I have no idea. But we're planting seeds, we're being open to it, and exploring what it might look like. And just being mindful what that could entail. But anyway, doing a new congregation. So mainly these are church plants within churches. And so often ethnic wise, there is a strategic benefit to giving, you can do giving some authority and autonomy to the congregation that's being planted inside. So you have a English-speaking congregation established, but then within it, you get a new language or culture that goes. The tendency is to say, well, shouldn't we just be one? Shouldn't we just be one? Be like, yeah, maybe. But there also may be a little advantage to say, let them have their own leadership, because the senior pastor is going to be the senior pastor of this. Does their senior pastor need to be an associate to that, or can their senior pastor be the senior pastor? So they have their own car. Do you have to try to integrate the leadership model when power dynamics, language barriers, cultural barriers take so much energy to overcome that it just makes hard work even harder? Whereas, I would say set up one committee that's a joint committee that's just designed to build relationships, coordinate things, handle complaints, and so forth. Do that. But over here, let them have their authority and their autonomy. They have their own SPRC. They have their own leadership structure, their own senior pastor, and so forth. And so in the same way, we have a congregation, 6 miles down the road here. You just have a congregation, a 6-second walk down the hallway. But you're as distinct from the two as the one 6 miles down the road. One's not over the other, but because you are roommates, everybody's had a roommate here at one time, right? It takes some compromise and stuff to make that work, even though you have your own room. When you have shared space, there's things you got to work out. Same thing with multiple congregations, especially when one feels like a tenant. One is a tenant, but how do you make them feel like, no, we're sisters and brothers in Christ and all that? So that's the new congregation model. And sometimes it's not a distinct group. It's a new congregation that gets birthed inside, and they start inside your church with the purpose of going out as an independent church and not as a satellite or as a multi-site. And that's when we move into new campuses. And we'll share more about that. Questions about these 4 levels of multiplication or of planting?
Where are, like in the new congregation, like are there specific church examples that you would identify that?
Yeah. So the new congregation churches inside of churches that we have, trying to think, a number of them have gone by the wayside, but I'm trying to think of some other ones that have been given birth. Oh, Acts Memorial has one inside of it.
Spring Valley, I'm saying did something.
They did years ago. Now, are they renting space? Because a lot are renting spaces to non-United Methodist churches just as for income. We do that at Coppell to an Indian church, which I get the. Yeah, there's lots of them that rent to other non-United Methodist congregations. So, yeah. We had a joint worship service with that Indian congregation. We're like, oh, this is great. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, we should do this. Do that. And so I go meet with the pastor and like, oh, about doing stuff together. And like, but we do it on this. I said, that's a communion Sunday, which, we would see that as one. He's like, no, like he drew the line right there. They were not going to do communion with us. That was against their theology. So I like, all right, I guess this isn't going anywhere. Go in there and baptize all his babies in there when he's not looking. Anyway, no. anyway, so there. I know that's happening in Acts. I'm trying to think of some other churches that this has been. It was so common back in the 90s and 2000s, as churches were. Flourishing, doing well, but their neighborhoods were changing. And they were like, we need to do something for our neighborhood, do something for our neighborhood, do something for our neighborhood. But in post 2019 General Conference, COVID, and disaffiliation season, most of our United Methodist churches are not seeing themselves with capacity to say, you know what, we can host another thing. Oh, we can afford another staff member who can focus on this population that's not our congregation. Yeah, so we've seen less than that. But Spring Valley did have a thriving Spanish language congregation at one time. But there was dynamics that just killed it, which is really was tragic. Christ Foundry got a few members from it. Yeah, it's tragic. Any more questions about these 4? All right. So the first one, the new faces and new spaces. I don't think this training's available anymore. Did I share the one about Archer City at the Star Hotel? So that young lady was the secretary of the church of Archer City. She was really one of the only young adults in the whole church. And her husband there is a chef in Wichita Falls. So they decided that they would do cooking classes at the Star Hotel, a newly renovated chic hotel downtown that said, yeah, you can come in, use our kitchen and our dining room. And they worked it out. And I think there was a charge for it, but then young adults would come in, take the cooking class from the chef, and then they would do like a communion together there at the Star Hotel as an experience. This grub and grace that you can see in the Archer County News, and you can say, they got $1,000 from us to get it going there, and made the newspaper. But instead of putting all their energy of come young adults and worship the way we worship here in Archer City on a Sunday morning, or join a Sunday school class, or do something like that, we're going to start this midweek cooking class coming in, starting new spaces to disciple people that they're not already discipling. Then the new worship services. The Central Texas Conference once sold a piece of property for $1 million, and they put together $110,000 grants to start new worship services. They were the only conference, I think, in the nation that experienced a bump in worship attendance that year. Starting new stuff works. They don't all work, but that repeated behavior of starting new things to disciple people and reach people you're not already, it works. And so they did an existing church, they did an existing campus mainly, and again, the Central Texas Conference did those $10,000 grants, and people launched all types of different worship services. Some of them made, some of them didn't, some of them, were a success, some of them were kind of say, what did we get for that $10,000? So forth. That one of my former students at St. Barnabas United Methodist Church started Wiggle Church during daycare pickup. And I saw their pastor not too long ago. She said they had 101 in worship. Now their second largest worship service. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they have 5 worship services. And now Wiggle Church is the second largest. Pretty awesome. And it's hitting people picking up their kids from daycare, and they said they now have people that are weren't connected with the church at all. They have this one grandmother brings her grandkids there because they can she gets a little reprieve, she gets a little thing, she gets to worship with them, she gets communion, and they get them in. Really cool stuff. So new worship services can take all sorts of shapes. You asked about the new congregations and new campuses. Oak Haven United Methodist Church has one that's still going. Some of these are not around anymore. This is the ones that I worked with, different things. We had an African fellowship that was going strong in Ridgewood Park that the pastor was in the reserves and got deployed, and it did not survive that deployment, which was disappointing. So somewhere. All right. Operating funds. Used to, the model for doing church plants, especially during the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, were you start off your funding up high, and then you drop it over a season. And they were doing like 200, 150, 100, 50, and 40, something like that over the years. Which you start off, we're going to cover all your expenses. You can rent a space, you can have some staff, etc. at this. But year 1, 2, 34. And then I think right here, you're here by year 5, you're done. Well, in year 1, you're supposed to raise $50,000 as a pastor. So bring in enough people, enough tithing entities and so forth that you can bring in the 50,000. Then you're supposed to grow your income at 50,000 over these 4 years. And so by year 4, you're at over $200,000 and then growing from there. In some of our suburban churches, this model worked really well. Because you had a lot of United Methodists that were moving out there during the white flight season. You go up there, put your cross and flame up. People are like, this church is much closer now than Highland Park. So I'm going to St. Andrew. You know what? This church at Grace Avenue here in Frisco is a lot closer than St. Andrew. So I'm going to be here at Grace Avenue. That's exactly how those 3 churches came into being. And they were sent by the other. And they received money from the conference. They received support. They received people, etc. That model worked during these years. Today, this model is not working. Why not?
United Methodists, they don't move. They stay in their churches.
No, we're still moving. We're still nomadic people.
Okay.
Frisco, Solana. Well, Frisco's getting built out, but like Solana, Nevada, North Richland Hills, Rome. I mean, there's still huge developments going on, and there's Methodists moving into those communities.
I mean, there's so many things that have impacted the United Methodist Church. Is it something like that? Like how we thought, I mean, is it just disaffiliation? Is it that we have families that are more regionally located? Is it funding? Is it the way the pandemic impact? I mean, there's lots of questions that to be asked there, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, used to people move to a new community. First thing they look for is schools. Second thing they look for,
Church.
how many people are looking for a church nowadays? A lot fewer.
Yeah.
Just a lot fewer people are looking for churches. Second, most of them, when they're looking for churches, the theology and the importance of theology has gone way down. It's much more, which one is good for my kids? Which one are my kids happy for? Which one am I happy at? A lot of people now are like, which ones align with my ideology? You know, which one's more Republican or Democrat, because that's what's important to me now. And so and just my generation down, the denominational fidelity has just plummeted. I mean, I'm the bowling alone generation. We're the ones, we don't join the Rotary Club, we don't join the Kiwanis. You know, my dad was a Kiwanis his whole life. We didn't, never within my, I need to join the Lions. We just didn't do that.
It's just a different mindset.
It's a different mindset. My generation below. There's this, there's just not that same kind of fidelity. And so what we're seeing is that ability to raise that money up that quickly is not happening. And so what we were seeing is, we start here with a 200 and, they start here and they may get going, but then it's just right here. And then we're here and we're like, they don't have enough to pay the pastor Like if this is what it costs to pay the pastor. We're getting right here, and we got a gap. Because they're only bringing up this much. And so, this plus this it's not making it. And then next year, they're gonna be here. We still don't have enough to pay the pastor, much less any other things. So, we were closing all our new churches left and right. So we changed our funding model to this model right here, into this curve. Again, all this information is for when y'all become district superintendents, bishops, or on teams that start thinking about this. Because I see these mistakes getting made over and over. And I was the national convener of the developers who did this nationwide, and I saw this model. I just saw money going down the drain. So what we moved to is this model, to where it goes like this up here, and then like this. So that way, if it's going to fail, let's fail fast, and let's hopefully fail cheaply. So basically, starting off, say, hey, go try and see if you can organize some people. If they can't get a small group going, then the chance of them being able to get a congregation going, pretty small. Does anybody know this name, Jim Collins? Jim Collins, Good to Great, How the Great Fail, business school kind of guy. He was saying about the great corporations, they do a rifle shot cannonball. And so basically, your rifle shot, do a lot of experimental things till you find something that's working. And then, boom, go big, invest big. Says the companies that fail, they go big here, which is what I saw us doing as a church, going big on things that have no proven track record. He says the other ones that fail, they get here and they don't go big. And another company sees what they're doing and they come in and they go big and they just wipe them off the face of the earth. Because they're like, ooh, they are onto something. Let me, and then they go big with it because they've seen other people's shots. And so moving to a strategy model to where when you're going to be doing experiments, how can you do some smaller experiments? Like with these families, we're going to do this meal, we're going to do this with the students, we're going to do this. But if you see you're onto something, you don't know, this summer camp starts off as a summer camp. Who knows? It may.
I have lots of ideas,
Right. But if you can't get here with those ideas, then you get there. Project transformation started off small, one church doing a summer program with kids, some college kids, etc. Well, it got going. And so there was heavy investment of it from a lot of sources, and now it's a nationwide program. But it started here. But at some point, you start getting that traction, and then you go big. So, yeah, this summer academy, who knows? Starts off a 1-week experiment for an evangelism class. You're going to learn a lot in this. Then you'll learn more and learn more. And who knows if it gets to this point, what the Lord might do with it. All right. So finding multiple revenue streams. You will hear me say that a lot. Multiple revenue streams, getting multiple local churches. All ministry is contextual, especially church plants, and funding is going to be contextual. And we set strategic levels with lesser amounts toward the beginning and towards the end, and the largest funding during the launch season. And then funds are always leveraged. So that was the other big deal that we changed. So this, 200, 250, 150, 150 model, those came in block grants. And when you were, so if you got 200 grand as a pastor, I don't have to ask anybody for money. So, what I shifted is you don't get any money unless you raise money. And so we used a multiplied funding. So if you're starting off, say we're trying to, we're our market, our goal there is, 200,000, then we'll say, all right, we'll give you $5 for each $1 you raise. And they'll be like, well, how am I going to get paid? Go raise $20,000. We'll have $100,000 of which you can get paid and a little money else. But if you can't raise $20,000, yeah, I don't see this going anywhere. Because you got to be able to raise the money, Pastor. And so what this did also is now they're able to go to donors and say, if you give me $5, what you're really giving me is 25. It's really, because every time you give me, it's going to be multiplied. And it is demonstrated that multiplied funding is easier to raise than when you're getting block funding. Because now I'm just going to you and I'm saying, hey, can you give me $1? Can you give me $1? But if I go to you and say, hey, if you give me $1, I get 5. So even if you don't believe, you can you can help me get $5 more and be like, I don't want it. You'd be held back. You get $5 more. So setting up a multiplied funding would enable people to do that. And then we would adjust it. And then like the next year, we get, $3 to 1, 2 to 1. And then we get all the way down to, you get 5 cents to the dollar, depending on where you are. You raise $1, you get 5 cents. But it still works towards multiplying. And it also worked towards the end. People could say, hey, we don't want to leave $1 in Plano, Texas. So we're at this. We still need another, $6,000 to get our full grant. And so that can be an end of the year push to say, hey, we want to get more funds in that. So that leverage funding, I'm telling you, it works. It helps us not overfund or underfund any project. So when you're setting budgets for your different ministries, block funding decreases giving, matching funding increases giving. And again, matching funding can become a challenge. And then the other benefit of it is there was a number of church plants in United Methodism that before disaffiliation was a thing, the church plants would prosper. And then the bishop would get ready to move that pastor. And that pastor says, I don't want to move. And I can tell you as a church planter, all of the fidelity was with me. There was no fidelity with the United Methodist Church because they weren't United Methodists before they met me. And if I said, hey, we're not going to do that anymore, they'd been like, whatever you say. It would have been that easy. And it's easy for that many church planters. And they get there, or when they say, hey, you need to pay apportionments now. I'm like, I think we'll become independent. Well, the idea is this gets, because some planners never talk about their denomination, their support, the funding that they're getting from outside and so forth. And I would say, I can understand why, because I'm trying to raise money. And you tell me you're already getting $200,000 from them. Why do you need my 20? Well, if I tell you, because I don't get a dime from them unless I get a 20 from you, then that builds more interest. And also gets them talking about the United Methodist Church. Gets them saying, hey, the conference is supporting us with this. We're getting this from the conference. If we give this, we get this from the conference. So, and I mean, I wonder how much that was happening because I know when I was, at least when I was there with Market Street, we had them on a matching fund. You raise this, you get this. And so this sense of, hey, we're getting this, I would say raise this up on your offerings. Say, I will remind you, every dollar you give, we get an extra 10 cents. What you did for the conference. And so if you can give a little more, we'll get a little more. And be able to talk openly to be able to raise funds and have that feeling. And then if the church does prosper, I want to come back to them and say, I want you to help me fund this other new church start. And then hopefully they'll be like, yeah, because we remember what it was like and we got help. So we'll help as well. Thoughts on contextual leverage funding that use multiplication models versus block? All right, you may have questions as we move ahead. Brace yourself. The spreadsheet is coming. So, Oasis was the African church there in Ridgewood Park. You may not want to mention there because they came to a bad end. But we moved them in 2017, I started. And in 2018, we moved them towards matching funding. And look where their offering went in 2 years. They went from $16,000 to $55,000 in their offering plate. Why? Because the pastor started talking about giving, started encouraging giving, and started doing leverage giving. And then so you can see how their funding went up as we moved them towards matching. This where's let me see which one I want to point out. Emmanuel Korean. When we were going to give them their land, I said, you got to demonstrate that you're going to be able to pay for it. And so we set up with them, says, we're going to have a red light, yellow light, and green light. Red light is this minimum number. If you don't raise this, we're not going to give you this church. They're worshiping in Webb Chapel United Methodist Church, which was the oldest congregation in Dallas County. Not the oldest United Methodist, the oldest one. And we were going to give them those facilities. But if they couldn't make this much money, we're like, you are not going to be able to pay for this building, and this building will kill your church. And we're not going to let you just take it and then sell it, and then because it was estimated to be around $4 million facility. Like, we're not going to give you this $4 million facility for you to run into the ground and then sell it and then go take that and go rent someplace and be there until your $4 million runs out. That's just not an option. We had a red light, our yellow light, which was, if you make this, we'll give you another year and we'll consider it. But if you make the green light, and I think I should switch those, I think this one's red. Anyway, if you get the green light, then we will deed you this facility. Well, Emmanuel Korean. Look what they did in 2020 and 2021. From 2020 to 2021, they went from 89,000 to 205,000 in their offering plate. People need to be challenged. Pastors, don't be afraid of money. Because ministry usually takes money. And it can be if we truly believe it's more blessed to give than to receive, we can help people give by encouraging it, by leveraging it, rather than discouraging it. So that's why I would say, I would definitely charge for the music camp. Absolutely. I'll give them value, etc. Now, it doesn't mean it can't be subsidized, but so forth. All right. That's how offerings changed, which, of course, you can see offerings going up and down, up and down, up and down. But anyway, Any questions about those? Because there's stories behind all of those numbers that I can share. If not, I'll move along. All right. Here you can see how we would set up a formula, how people would get 65 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents, because the idea was I was challenging them to grow at around 30% a year. Because when they're young and growing, so your congregation should be growing at around 30% a year. So I would give them stretch goals to where if they did what they did last year, they'll have enough money. And they'll be fine. If they just do what they did last year, they'll be fine. But I give them a 30% growth challenge. Whereas if they grow that 30%, not only will they get that 30% additional funds, they'll get another 30% from us. And so they'll have these additional offerings and these additional dollars, both from their growth as well as from the grants that we gave. So, and you can see the levels. And these levels are so small compared to what other people were doing nationwide, but we were having greater success than any of them. Keep it fun. All right. Project ACE, the Accelerated Church Expansion Program. How are we doing on time? All right, we're good. So we're doing a partnership between the conference, between another church and Texas Methodist Foundation to try to get a new campus going. So think about 3 buckets of money. You have your operating funds, you have your capital assets that we have from closed churches, and then money that we might can borrow from. And so the idea was, can we leverage all of those to get a new facility? So for example, we had $4 million, and if we borrowed it if we use that money to borrow money, like let's say we had $5 million and 3 times the amount, we could get $15 million borrowed against it. This is going to make sense hopefully in a minute. So here's an example of what we had from Melissa United Methodist Church. So we went in with Melissa. Melissa had land. They're a campus of First McKinney, but they didn't have the money to build a church there at First McKinney. So we go in and say, all right, we build it for you, but we hold the title. So we spend the $4 million on this, of which the monthly payment is average monthly payments around $5,000 on $4 million. I'm gonna pause right there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, this is your finance class here. You borrow $4 million, you're paying $5,000 a month on your interest payments. Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
At what we had at that point, whatever it got averaged at. I don't see that. So I don't see what the interest was. But anyway, so we got $4 million from TMF. We're taking our money from our closed churches. We're making the payment. Meanwhile, Melissa's only paying, of that, a small percentage of it. Like the next year we'll do 4K. They do 1K. With the idea is they start growing. We start going. Whereas by the end, they're making the mortgage payment, and we're out. We're doing this with Market Street with the parsonage. They're paying us back with that. We've talked about doing that with there as well. At the end of this, I know this is real estate stuff. At the end of this church is designed when it's built. If it should grow enough to where it can make all its payments. Well, once it can take over all its payments, what we do is we take all the money that we've put into it as a conference, wrap it into the loan, we would have had capital campaigns to bring down the debt. So hopefully, when we get 10 years down the road, this $4 million property, we've been able to chop at the debt, chop at the debt, chop at the debt to where it's now, you know, let's say it's down to 2 million because we've been able to raise 2 million over 10 years through doing multiple capital campaigns. I'll say, pastors, prepare to do capital campaigns every 3 years, whether you need it or not. Otherwise, the church will not get used to it. When was the last time Greenland Hills did a capital campaign?
It's in discussion right now. I don't know.
Good. Because churches need to be thinking about it always. What's next? What's next? What's next? So, and I mean, that doesn't, you can raise money for other organizations, but something that helps really people get in there. So now you're down at $2 million. 10 million 10 years ago when you built this $4 million project, well, this thing's now worth $6 million. So now this local church is going to try to get a $2 million loan on a $6 million asset, of which they already have. So that means they have 4 million in equity. This church is now going to qualify for a loan that they didn't qualify for 10 years ago. Does that make sense? And they're going to get better terms because their debt to asset ratio is much stronger. Again, these are all things I did not learn at Perkins, but had to learn outside. But y'all are going to leave having learned this. You're probably like, oh yeah, I can handle all this. What do we need? So, but then the other thing we do is we would have put in, about $400,000, $500,000 in it as a conference over there. So what we do is we just roll that into the loan. So instead of 2 million, go ahead and take out a $2.5 million loan and take the 500K and pay the conference back. That way our millions of dollars that we have from the closed churches keeps getting reimbursed. So the money we bought the parsonage there for Market Street, Market Street's paying us back for. That way, when we get ready to start a new church, we have that money to be able to do it again. Whereas Market Street, when it started, its ability to go out and get a loan, it was just not there. You didn't have assets. Nobody knew if this church is going to make or not.
We only have 2 paid people on staff, which is the pastor and then the secretary.
Yeah, and so for them to give you a $400,000 whatever for the house cost, get a $400,000 loan, you're not going to get it. But we could, as a conference, get that loan, and then the church can then, pay it back, take it over, and then so forth. I was also like, if let's start doing these church plants, let's go buy a house, let's get our planter out here in the mission field. If that church plant doesn't make, we have a house out there that maybe is appreciated in value. We could sell that and say, let's apply that towards the next one. So the whole idea is leverage everything. Just leverage everything in ministry. And that's what this ACE program was designed to do. And that's how we did it at Melissa. And Melissa is prospering today. So again, want to fail fast, fail less expensive, get your critical mass before burdening with debt, doing multiple churches at the same time, creating a self-sustaining model where it gets reimbursed and keeps going, and having skin in the game for multiple people, diversifying your income streams because you have funding from supporting churches, funding from the conference, funding from TMF, and then the planter raising lots of money as well. So there's our parsonage there in Maybank, Texas. It was a $350,000 parsonage. And then you can see how we set them up with their payments supposed to be going up because the church is supposed to be growing and expanding. And I know this is the model, but yeah, but then at the same thing, if we do have to liquidate this, we would just take on, like, for example, if it's, 350 and we're at, halfway through, well, whatever we sell it for, Maybank gets, we get our paid back. So say we sell it for $400,000 and we've already spent this much money on it. We've only put 175. Well, we get the conference, we get the 175 back. And then the proceeds could go to Market Street for their new building. And then they have to pay housing allowance to their new pastor. I mean, that's a model that could be used. All right. Questions on financing church plants? I know that was a lot. But again, it's just kind of going that creativity. And I just want to come back and conclude with this. Remember these P's, 5 P's really. The 5 one is repeat. And what that is, it's really the play. It really is 5 P's with the 5th P being repeat. And that really is the life of evangelism and ministry. Just pray about it. Do a lot of planning. Then pilot it. And I like using the word pilot because it's really reiterating the experimental nature of that which is evangelism. And then perceive what God's doing, because really it's all about God's work and not ours. But we want to learn more about it and so forth. I have appreciated this class with you and having y'all in here, and I will pause to see if anything else needs to be said before we conclude our semester together.
Thank you for a great semester.
Thank you.
I do pray you find it helpful. And
Absolutely. I found it this class very beneficial. On ministry, at least this semester.
yeah, thanks. Good. That's a prayer answered. Yeah. Well, look forward to being in touch with many of you, especially those who are staying in the Horizon Texas Conference. And again, as soon as you turn your paper, please call me Owen from here on out, because we will be, colleagues rather than student professor. And if I can help you with anything, I want to. Can I pray for y'all? Lord, I thank you for these students, and a special prayer for Manny and William, where they are today. Lord, I ask your blessings upon them as they are finishing out this semester, and additional portions of your grace about where you are leading them in ministry. God, we know this world needs the good news that you have given to them and entrusted in them and made exemplary in them and in their lives. So I ask your blessings and care upon them as we seek your kingdom, seek your righteousness with the knowledge and faith that all else will be provided. I pray in Christ's name. Amen. All right. Thank y'all and blessings to you.